In this video in Spacemaker, we want to look at building out some of the site context in a little bit more detail. So what I have here is a detailed OBJ file that I've imported in to give my site a little bit more detailed context. One thing to note here is you don't want to go too detailed. There is a limit of 155 megabytes, so probably the meshing and the ratings is a bit too much overkill. But for the sake of this demo, we can go through some options on how to build this site out. So I'm just going to delete that. This particular site is here in Copenhagen. So here is the existing building here by Big Architects. There's also a mountain building here in the background behind this one here. And I am looking at this site here. So I've actually demolished these buildings and I'm going to be using that as my site. So for the sake of what we're going to do today, I'm going to import this building and then attempt to make this building a little more detail. So here inside of Spacemaker, we have the library. At the moment, I'm just going to be bringing it in via the main library import here, which is in beta at the moment. I have actually brought one in earlier. I'll do this again just to show you how it's done. So I'm going to import a mesh. So I'm going to drag in a file, which is about 6.5 megabytes. I have optimized it. My preference is to use 3ds Max, exporting it as an OBJ file. And there's tools like Pro Optimizer. You can also go onto the editable polygon modeling tool and edit stuff as needed. Here, it has come in and it's looking at the unit scale of meters and the z-axis being the vertical axis. So this one was done in centimeters and it should appear, and we're going to flip the axis to the y-axis, and now we have our building looking okay. These are 10 by 10 meter grids, so I'm just going to go continue. Looks correct. There are some options here in terms of optimizing the data, so it'll pop up in a second where you'll have the ability to preserve the mesh or reduce the mesh, so you can reduce the count. So there's a few things you can do here, and then it's going to show what that might look like if you're removing incompatible geometry or flattening the high points, flattening the low points, transporting steps. I will just go for the basic one here because the goal is to have a detailed model inside of my context. So to the side, finish, and now that will load up. It's taking a bit of time to load up. So again, it was a very big, here it is. This was the one that was 155 megs, and I reduced it down to 6, so you can see what was causing the headaches there with all the meshing on the balcony. So again, before you bring the data in, reduce that polygon count. And here it is here. So it's available in the library, it's just not sitting here in the proposal at the moment, so I can go and drag and drop that in. And here we have it. So I can line this up as needed. You've got simple tools here to move the information across, and you can see the shadow where it used to be. So I can do some basic rotation here. Now the next thing I want to look at is the mountain building behind it. So that's this one here, and I want to try and mass something up that might represent this particular type of design. So what I've got here is the option to export out some of the data. So when I go back to the navigator, I can go to edit, And once you edit the layers here, you can actually export out the file and then potentially work up the file from the data you exported. So here I can go and export layers. I won't do this just live right now. I'll show you what I've done. So I've exported it out, and here in Revit I can see that information. This is the IFC. So here we have the mountain here. So with that, you can choose to model up in Revit or in your preferred application. So you can get rid of some of this context. You can model up here, 3ds Max. You may be using Rhino or SketchUp, and you can now export that out as an OBJ file. And we have here in the new Revit 2023 OBJ, you can export that out as an OBJ and then bring the more detailed model back into Spacemaker like I did with the first model. So that is a workflow showing how you can potentially add more detail to your site. So here, back in Spacemaker, you can add more detail to your site context.